Hey, so I'm sitting here at the park on my favorite hill, just resting, listening, journaling, you know, what I do. And I was just like, I don't know, just releasing a lot of things that aren't really mine to carry, talking with God. And actually, earlier today, I recorded a video where I was talking about delayed gratification. And this experience that I had recently just reminded me of when I first started dating, and I was ethically non-monogamous, polyamorous. I'm not sure what to label it, but I was dating multiple people, but also it was casual, which is not necessarily synonymous with ENM or Poly, but that's the way that I was engaging, right? And I think the not so pretty truth is that when I was engaging with people, and let's say there was like a connection, because one of the beautiful things about being able to connect with multiple people at the same time is that you don't require or expect one person to like make you whole or complete or fulfill all of your different needs. You know what I mean? Like, for example, there was this one time I was seeing somebody who we weren't connecting physically, but we had a really like deep bond and friendship, and we would go out and have fun. Like, we would go dancing or out to like dinner, and like we would just hang out all the time. And he would come over, I would cook, I would go over there, he would cook. Like, it was just a really fun connection, like lots of companionship, you know what I mean? And then there was somebody else who I was seeing, and that was like the complete opposite. And it was just a physical connection, especially at first. Like, that's literally all we would reach out to each other for, like communication, but also like energetically. That's all we ever saw each other for. And then when we were done, we would just go our separate ways. And honestly, that worked really well for me. That's like exactly what I was looking for when I started dating. There's more to the story. Eventually I grew way too emotionally attached. And I think that's kind of inevitable sometimes. Well, at least for me, when sex is involved, like just reoccurringly and all these things. But my point is that not necessarily with these two connections, but I noticed like when I was just kind of dating people and not necessarily like connecting with them on either of those levels, but just kind of getting to know people, going back and forth, communicating, I didn't have to find my center very often. Like, I didn't have to ground in my own wholeness, because if somebody wasn't giving me the attention that I desired, I can just text somebody else, and then boom, there's a whole full-blown conversation or connection or date or whatever, or like just feeding my ego, you know what I mean, or whatever it turned out to be. And I could just literally go from one person who was not able to like show up for me how I had wished, like couldn't see me, couldn't hold me, couldn't value me, wasn't willing to open up or communicate or different things like that, I would just find myself like, well, I'm just going to text this guy and see if he wants to hang out or see if he wants to talk on the phone or text or whatever. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna lie, it was fun. It was really fun. Like, I get why stereotypically in our society, it's kind of a thing for men to just not really know how to be alone and always have something or someone going on, always have somebody in their back pocket, always have options open, not really closing the doors necessarily on specific connections, because you could always send that text, what are you doing? Hey. And I don't remember, like, actually there were a few points where I remember consciously like being in my bed and just being like, all right, Vanessa, how about you just sit in the discomfort a little bit of, this person just not being able to meet you where you would like, and just sit with that with yourself for a little bit instead of reaching out to this other guy or or being on the dating app or whatever it is, and just being completely disassociated from this particular experience and distracting yourself with a whole different connection. Because yeah, you can do that. Yeah, it might be fun in the moment, but ultimately it just felt like I was training my neuropaths and my nervous system, and the way that I was seeing connection as my new normal in a way that was ultimately unfulfilling, empty. It was just kind of like playing Hatchimo with different connections. And it's like, this one's down, so now I'm going to go with this one because this one's up over here. Whatever. Oh, man. And I feel like this probably isn't an uncommon experience with people who engage with multiple connections at the same time, whether you're doing it ethically or not. That's a whole nother conversation. But like, I think it's worth a conversation and an acknowledging of the fact that this is really easy to do because the accessibility is there a lot of times for a lot of people. You have access to reach out to somebody, and it could just take a text and boom, there you go. You have a conversation going, you have companionship, you have a date, you have connection, you have sex, you have whatever it is. I think it requires a lot more I'm going to say discipline to say, I'm going to actually pause here and give it a moment and just allow this other interaction with this person to really settle in. One, to not disassociate from the experience, but also two, to truly like give that experience the full weight of what it is without kind of sweeping it under the rug and covering up whatever misalignment there is, because I'm filling those empty gaps with a different connection. Like, no, if there's something missing here from this connection, whether it's you or me, or it's just not a good fit, That's something that needs to be addressed, that needs to be identified and addressed, and a conversation be had accordingly. But mostly, I think just integration is such a necessary and benevolent thing, because it's not always the easiest thing to sit with yourself and be like, all right, what just happened? Does that work for me? And just kind of that liminal space between one circumstance that occurred and sitting with it and being like, okay, how do I feel as a result of this? Do I feel like I'm not seen? Do I feel like I'm not valued? How does that make me feel? Like, honestly, that feels kind of shitty. Even in casual connections, it's okay to say, we're doing this for fun, but also I'm not going to allow for disrespect. And you have to communicate clearly. And these are my requirements if you want to engage with me in this way. And these are my boundaries, Oh, just lessons that I've learned through looking back with an honest lens and observing different ways that I've shown up. And I think these moments of introspection are so important, especially not just for me, but obviously, but also for the book that I'm writing, because I'm like, I don't want to be irresponsible and just write this fun, sexy book of all the great parts about dating casually and having this season of just fun, free pleasure and sex and whatever, novelty. Yeah, but also, what did it cost me? In what ways did I have to abandon myself? Or in what ways could I have said, actually, I'm willing to be more patient and go through a bit of a more rigorous vetting process in order to find somebody who we are on the same page as far as what we're here to do, but also online in a way where we're able to communicate like adults and, be honest and get to know each other. And I don't know, for me, I was just kind of in a rush to get to the fun pleasure part of it. I didn't see the value in taking it slow and just vetting better for myself. That was a good lesson that I learned by experience. Great experiences.